Tonight, I'm your host. We're doing things a little bit differently. I'm Dan Pottsy. You will probably know me as Pottsy by now. And seeing as it's the international break, we're going to be doing something a little bit special and a little bit different. But we'll go into that and explain that why. The international break for me is a little bit depressing because there's no Arsenal football. I don't mind when England are playing in World Cups or Euros, but they're not tonight. It's all a friendly and some qualifiers and what have you. So not really interested. So let's go talk about Arsenal. Try and keep it positive because there has been some negative things of late, which doesn't make me very happy. So we're going to explain a little bit about what we're going to do. But first of all, I'm joined tonight by our original podcast host, Mr. Guns and Yellow Ribbons himself, the Irish Paul Merson, Fergus Keating. How are you, Fergus?
Man, he's got to you, hasn't he? The Irish Paul Merson.
Mate. He has. How are you, mate? You good?
Yeah, I'm all right. I've got a bit of this like sinus head thing going on, so I feel like I'm in a swimming pool or at the minute. So yeah, if I sound like I'm talking absolute, I can't hear you clearly.
Don't say it. Yeah, that's it. Well, you've not got no headphones now, mate. You've got a new webcam I can see, which looks awesome.
Yeah. New webcam. Obviously, we've got the nice mic, but no headphones, and you're coming out of the speakers. So this is a little bit of a trial as well. So yeah, looking forward to it. Looking forward to it. Let's see how we go. So
is it a bit weird you not hosting and all that? Are you used to it now with Johnny and the boys?
I like control. You know me.
Yeah, that's it.
You do know me. So.
Well, mate, I'll go easy on you now. So this is what we're doing. You see at the bottom now. It's your all-time 1 to 11. So the only rules are you start with your goalkeeper, pick whatever formation you want, and we're talking about Arsenal players, memories, goals, ex-players that you appreciate and that you have put into your 1 to 11. The only rules, though, Fergus, are it has to be players that you remember watching live. So it has to be your era of football. Okay, so how hard was it, man? You can only pick 11 players. It must be quite tough, yeah?
It is, you know, when you start going, like, you go through, like, I started watching Arsenal properly in 1993 when I met Jack and her boy and my brother-in-law. I started watching Arsenal, following Arsenal then. So I've a little bit of Rioch, George Graham, and then on to Arsene Wenger and Unai Emery. So, you know, although I am as old as some of the other guys who have put on like Baston and various players from years gone back, now it was tough because, you know, I watched some of the best Arsenal players for 50 years probably play football. So yeah, it was tough.
So your era of football then is from 93, 94 players to date. Is that right? 93, 94?
Okay. 93, 94. Yeah. 26 years or so of it. So yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. Are you ready for this?
Yeah, let's go. Go on.
Okay, cool. So tell me, start me off with your goalkeeper. Who have you gone for with your Arsenal all-time goalkeeper that you can remember playing?
Actually, Andy Fink done a thing on Arsenal Fans Forum about, can you recall the first game you've seen Arsenal play, whether it be on TV or at the game or whatever. And I put down the 79 Cup final, but the FA Cup final was always on in the house anyway. And I never took very much notice. My dad was a Liverpool fan. Some of my brothers were Man United fans. I do remember some of them. But the very first Arsenal game I remember features my goalkeeper. And my goalkeeper is Seaman. It was Naeem from the halfway line.
Oh, no.
Well, when I met my wife, she had a little 6-year-old boy, my son, Mike, and I remember him sitting there. It wasn't on TV very often, football, and it was on ITV. And Naeem took that goal, and he cried. And I thought, oh, poor kid. How can you get that emotional about football? And look at me now.
How wrong were you back then, mate? How wrong were you back then? Yeah. So obviously that's kind of a negative memory of Seaman. Is there any positive ones? Because he was a great goalkeeper, wasn't
he? Listen, he that one. I think we talked about it when we were talking about the concept of this. Who was that one? He caught off the line. It went behind him.
Amazing! Sheffield United in the FA Cup. That was the best save for me. Unbelievable save. Everyone thought that was in, I think, and that just sums Seaman up really. And England #1 and Arsenal #1 for a reason, wasn't he? So yes. I've got no qualms of you picking him, mate, at all. What have you gone for? A back four, back three? What have you gone for?
I've gone 4-4-2.
Okay, you've gone 4-4-2. Let's start with a right back then, because this is going to be an interesting conversation to have. Who have you gone for your right back?
My right back is invincible.
Go on.
Lauren.
Lauren, great choice. So
Ralphie.
tell me why Lauren? Because a lot of people would be mentioning people like Lee Dixon, and even Sagner at the Emirates was great and consistent. So talk to me about Lauren.
Well, Dixon again. It was towards the end of his era when I was getting involved. Just Lauren, he was just hard as nails, wasn't he? He just
I was.
hard as nails, and he was fast. He could do everything that all our right backs and left backs do now, but he also could defend, and he could defend fantastically. Like Sanya was brilliant, Dixon was brilliant, but Lauren I think it's the invincible thing that just puts him over the edge.
Did you have more respect for him as well because he came as a right midfielder as well?
I didn't know that.
Oh, did you not know? Yeah, because he was a right midfielder from Real Mallorca, and he kind of Wenger saw him as a replacement for Dixon. So I kind of thought that was, you have to remember that as well and take that into consideration, because he's kind of learnt a new position there. And listen, he was an invincible, like you said right at the start. So how can you argue with it, really? So yeah, Lauren.
Similar to Colo, wasn't he a midfielder to start off with, and then got back?
Yeah, Colo was. That's right. Yeah, he was more of a Vieira type figure, wasn't he? And he dropped back. Yeah. So we'll go with your left back then, because this is going to cause a bit of a conversation, I imagine. Who have you gone for at left back?
Well, the closest thing that we've got to him now has just signed for us in Kieran Tierney. Okay. It's $5,000 a week. Cashley Cole.
Cashley Cole. Well, what do you make of it? What do you make? What do you make of the Ashley Cole thing? In all seriousness, though, because he for me was the best left back that the Premier League's ever seen. I still believe that now. What did you make of it? Because that would have been a fantastic player to try and keep hold of, wasn't it? It was frustrating that he went to Chelsea, wasn't it?
It was frustrating he went to Chelsea. I think if he'd gone abroad or gone somewhere else, I just don't like any players that leave. He came through I don't know if we had an academy there or whatever. We probably had the start of an academy back then, not like we've got now. But when you've been at a club for so long, and he was almost Mr. Arsenal to a certain degree of his era, for him to go and for it to be mismanaged that way, it just felt, and the way it was all over the press, it just felt wrong. And then he lost a mobile phone,
and the story goes on. Who else would you have thought about? Because you mentioned a player to me the other day when we were talking about this. Obviously, Ashley Cole was the one you went for. Was there anyone else in with a shout?
Yeah, Nacho actually, I think he deserves a shout. Not that he's the best at the back, but if you go through the ones I recall, like you got Cole, you got Gibbs, you've got
Clichy.
Clichy, in fairness, was decent. I didn't mind the way he went to City because he was always respectful to us, unlike other people that we shan't mention. But Nacho has just been a good journeyman, hasn't he? But
yeah, consistent performer, I'd say, Nacho Monreal. What about Nigel Winterburn?
Yes, Nigel. I met Nigel actually. I done the I done the Legends tour with Nigel, and he took us around. And I've got a picture with me with. I haven't got a beard in it. I got a picture with me with Nigel Winterburn, and he talked about his wonder goal. His only goal, but he was fantastic. He was good. He was hard, and it is off. Like you're going to do my centre backs in a second, and you look at the centre backs, and you talked about Dixon. You talked about Pele, not Pele, Romford Pele, Ray Parley. Talk about all those players of that era, and you put Winterburn in there, and just hard as hell.
Absolutely. You talk about centre-back pairings. You've obviously had quite a few. Let's start with your first one. Who have you gone with?
Centre-back. Well, happy birthday, Mr. Arsenal.
Yeah. Isn't it fitting, eh?
Fitting, yeah.
Is he the best captain we've ever had, Ferg, Tony Adams?
I think it's the fact that he was like 17 when he was blooded with George Graham. He ended up being 20 years of age, and he's captain. He wasn't the best footballer in the world, but he just knew how to lead. You look at 89. You look at like he done 20 years, his whole 22 years, I think, his whole entire career at Arsenal. And there's not many people that do that these days. Even back then, you don't see many that do that. And we've got a statue outside the North Bank with him. And
you must remember that goal that he scored with a statue. That was unbelievable.
Wasn't that his last goal?
I'm not even sure, to be fair. I'm not sure because he stayed for a few more years.
He didn't score many, but I think that was his last game for Arsenal against him.
It was unbelievable, that goal, wasn't it? And do you know what the best thing about that goal was? It was set up by Steve Bold. That was the thing that made me laugh the most. You have our centre back pairing that gets told boring Arsenal, and one sets up the other. But that goal for me was sensational. So who have you gone for alongside him then, Tony Adams? Because you could have picked a few, yeah. Who have you gone for?
Do. Souls are gonna do.
Had to be. Had to be, didn't it? Was that because of the way that he come to us, or was it actually because you loved him as a footballer as well?
Listen, as a footballer, he was industrial. He was skillful enough at doing his job. He was a man mountain in doing his job. But I think it was the one-upmanship over that lot down the road made it even better. The fact that he dragged them out till the very last day, and I remember the interview on Sky going, "Yeah, I'm ready to sign," but he didn't say where he was going to sign for, and he signed for the Arsenal. The guy knew what was great. The only smirch on his career for me, I loved that he got that goal in the Champions League final in Paris.
Yeah.
Lima let us down. The thing that West Ham, remember the West Ham game where he disappeared at half time? Such a shame he done that. Such a shame. But no, Soul is bang up there for me.
I remember when he said he wanted to win the league at White Hart Lane, so he did. He left Tottenham and joined Arsenal, and we won it there. That was superb. I'll always love him for that. Always.
They've got a commemorative plaque in our blue circle in the new stadium at White Hart Lane, marking the centre circle to celebrate where Sol Campbell lifted the Premier League.
I love it. Love it.
Richard, sorry, I'm just going to jump in and be half for a second. Richard Butler's come along and said Adams and O'Leary. Richard, I didn't see O'Leary much. I saw O'Leary for Ireland and Brady for Ireland, but I didn't see them for my Arsenal career. And the rules are there have to be players that I watched playing football for Arsenal.
There we go. So talking about players you've watched, we're moving on to the midfield. You've gone for a midfield two. One of them is got some questions marks over, so we'll come back to that one after. But one of them's pretty obvious, so we may as well start with him in the middle. So who have you gone for in the middle?
He comes from Senegal. Vieira. Listen, what can I say? Vieira is... We've never replaced Vieira. We're still waiting to replace Vieira.
Is he replaceable, though? Can we get someone as good as Patrick Vieira? That's my question.
Well, football has changed a little bit, but I think he was even... If Vieira was playing today, I think he still could actually play in today's game. I know it's a lot quicker, but I think his brain and his intelligence, as some of the other ones I'm going to talk about as well, his brain, his intelligence would match today's football. I didn't realize until I look back at some of the clips that you see on YouTube and stuff of how big he was. I've only seen him play live 2 or 3 times. I didn't have a season ticket at that stage, but yeah, it was an immense player.
As well, when Adams left, you kind of thought that's our captain gone. He took over and was sensational, wasn't he, as a leader?
Yes, yeah, he could lead and. We talk about like captains and the 5 captains and stuff about our current squad. Adams was a centre back, Vieira in the midfield. People were talking about making Lacazette the captain. You can't do that. You've got to be midfield or defender or centre back for me as a captain. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with what Alex has just said, who sits behind me in a season ticket there. My man was a Colossus, Paddy. Yes, he was indeed. So this next one's a little bit controversial, Fergus. So we're actually going to talk about a few players, but I'm going to let you talk about who you've picked first of all. So who have you gone for alongside Patrick Vieira? I've
gone for our technical director. Edu.
Go on then. Talk to me. Why Edu?
Edu, I saw him shopping with his mum. Sounds like a stupid.
Is that why?
He's a really nice fella. I was in Enfield Retail Park. I used to sell cars from a showroom that was in there years and years ago. And I saw Beckham there when he had his metatarsal thing as well. But he was shopping with his mum, and he was really, really nice. Plus, he was underrated. He was very, very. A bit like Gilberto. We've had quite a few underrated midfielders that just do stuff.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Flamini, there's quite a few. And I just thought he'd done a good job. And look what he's done now. He's got us Martinelli.
Well, I'll tell you what, I definitely thank him for that. I'm a massive fan of Martinelli, but that's for another podcast. Mark Porter's put on here, we both know Mark quite well, sits with us as the seasons get older. Vieira and Petit. Vieira and Petit, says Fergus. What do you agree with that? Is that French connection there?
I did like Petit. My wife likes Petit more than I did. But my wife was actually on the balcony at Islington Town Hall when we won the 97-98 double, and Vieira and Petit was on there, and Bergkamp, and she did comment to say how nice she thought Emmanuel was.
There we go. Is that why you didn't pick him? Because you're jealous? Is that basically it? All right, no worries. Listen, you didn't mention Fabregas. What do you think of Fabregas? Go on, just quickly. What's your score on him? I know that he obviously didn't come back to us. He went to Chelsea. What's your opinion there?
I didn't mind him go to Barcelona. I didn't mind that so much. I think it wasn't really his choice. To a certain degree, if the rumours are told, he could have come back to us. I just wish he came back because, we talked about Mr. Arsenal being Tony Adams. He was Mr. Arsenal Mark II.
Yeah, I must admit, I was absolutely gutted when he went. Cameron Welsh has just put on there. Cameron, a good friend of mine, known him probably, must be 20 years now, I've known Cameron. And he mentioned Cesc Fabregas as well. So we're moving on to the wide midfielders now. We'll start with your right midfielder. Who have you gone for a right midfielder?
Well, I like the guy with the big red hair.
Also still at our club now. Also at our club.
Still at the club, and also managing our future. Managing our, allegedly anyway, at least, managing our cup sides. Freddie Ljungberg. It's not the Calvin Klein... that
doesn't do it for you, no.
No, it's not my cup of tea. But I just think he's so passionate. He always came up with those sort of goals. He was just such a threat on that right hand side, and I have just such happy memories of so many FA Cups with him just coming in and poking in a goal here and there.
You mentioned him earlier, and Ben Bennett has just put a comment on who are Ray Parlour. Did he get close at all to Romford Pele?
To be honest, I don't know how true this is, but with my wife's nan's funeral, I met Ray Parlour's uncle, and he was in my house and everything else, and apparently. Nobody can confirm this, but apparently my wife's related to Ray Parlour's family in some way or another. I don't know. Wow. But I've met Ray at the Marriott in Waltham Abbey a few times, and he's such a gent. He's a really nice guy. I like him on TalkSport. He's not the most articulate guy in the world, but hey, there's a few of us. But he's just a nice, genuine guy, and I think he's a genuine Arsenal fan. And what I liked probably about Ray is he's probably not the best footballer in the world, and he was from the old era with like the George Graham Tuesday Club and stuff like that, and he actually changed and developed himself under Wenger, and I thought that was fantastic.
Yeah, I agree with that. Talk about underrated players. Ray Parlour's right up there for me. Absolutely. The other side then, left midfield. This was easy, wasn't it?
Well, Alex beat me to it. Bobby Perez. The goal against Villa and the Saints, yes, agree totally. But I actually remember him for a different reason. And again, a bit like the Naeem thing, I was actually in a box in Highbury in the clock end. I was in Curry Motors box, and I saw the Arsenal Portsmouth game where he done that dodgy dive, and that was in the Invincible year. So
Listen, what a dive it was. We went
he
unbeaten
can
because
dive
of
all
that.
he likes. We are invincible, 49 undefeated.
Absolutely, mate. Absolutely. So that leaves you with two up front, mate. I'll let you start with which one you want to start with. This has got to be tricky because we have had some fantastic strikers. So who have you gone with first of all?
Well, the Iceman, first of all. The Iceman.
Yeah.
Burkamp. Shame he couldn't fly. Shame he's slightly reclusive nowadays. Not totally reclusive, but he isolates himself a little bit more than many others. And I don't see him ever being an Arsenal manager, unfortunately, only because he doesn't want to. He can't do that flying stuff. But the Flying Dutchman himself, that goal against Newcastle, that one against Leicester, the guy is he's just amazing. Amazing.
Best player to ever wear the Arsenal shirt for you or not?
I think he's followed up very closely by the other guy I'm going to talk about.
Okay, go on then. You might as well mention him now.
And actually, Ben's come up and said one as well, who I did almost bring in. They are my top three. I have gone for Henry as my other one, simply because I saw him play so much. I never saw Righty play in the flesh, I don't think. I saw Henry and I saw Bergkamp play in the flesh, which was a pleasure. But I was at the Leeds game when the King came back and scored that game.
Unbelievable.
But Arshavin and Henry at Sunderland away, and we done the conga in the South Stand at Sunderland, the Stadium of Light. That is a memory that if Gary Wilkins or any other guys who are up there are watching it with it now, that was a day and a half. Absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, for me, he's one of the best players ever, and certainly Arsenal's best ever player. Massive fan of Bergkamp and Ian Wright as well, but Henry for me, I think probably does go down as the greatest ever Arsenal player.
Ian Wright is one of us. As a diehard fan, he's one of us. And we talked with Lee the other night, and we talked about Kevin Campbell. But you got Kevin Campbell, you got Ian Wright, you got that era of, and which I almost call the final era of real Arsenal fans, or real football fans actually getting involved, and they still get involved with football now.
Well, listen, you know my love for Ian Wright. You know he's my favourite ever Arsenal player. So, I would have had to find space for him. But I'm going to do my 1 to 11 with you and I. So at some stage, so you'll see my Arsenal 1 to 11. But
am I allowed to host that one?
Say again.
I'm allowed to host that one, am I?
You're allowed to host back and get some control back, even though you've pretty much taken control over here as always. So, but we'll let you. We'll let you. No, I'm joking. You're all good, mate. It's been fun. Yeah, mate. You mentioned Bruce Rioch, you mentioned George Graham, you mentioned Unai Emery and Arsene Wenger. It might be an easy question, but if you had to pick one manager, who would it be?
There's only one Arsene Wenger.
Yeah, I think it has to be really, Denny, and I think he's been easy to watch. Easily our best manager over the years for me. So there we go. Ferg, it's been an absolute pleasure, mate. You enjoy that?
Yeah, a bit weird.
Bit weird. Nice to reminisce, though, mate. Nice to reminisce.
It is. Apparently, we're meant to be watching Poland versus Latvia. Now, listen, Melina, Ireland aren't playing. The Republic of Ireland aren't playing, so we're not really interested in international football. Hence why we've done this. But
sorry,
listen,
Melina, we're going to close now, Melina. So sorry, you can get back to your football. Ferg, you've put it up for us. Your all-time 11. It is David Seaman in goal, Lauren at right back, Tony Adams and Sol Campbell. What a partnership that is. Ashley Cole at left back, Vieira and Edu, and then Freddie Lundberg and Robert Pires either side of those, with Thierry Henry and the Iceman Dennis Bergkamp up front. That's a fantastic team. If that team played now, would it win the league, Ferg?
Depends how much money City have.
That's very true, isn't it? That's very true. Listen, you have been watching an episode of Guns and Ribbons. This is Fergus Keating's 1 to 11. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, review us, share it with your friends, and we will be doing a few more of these with some other panelists soon. So please enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you and good night.
And remember, we are an Arsenal podcast by Arsenal fans for Arsenal fans. We don't do this for money. We just do it for fun because we love the Arsenal. Dan, I really, really appreciate doing this for you. I was nervous.
Was you? You didn't seem nervous at all, mate. You did really well. I was probably more nervous than you, to be honest, hosting for the first time. So
you've done well. You've done well. Right,
thanks.
We're out of here. Thank you, everybody. Loved all your comments. Really appreciate it. Join in. I know the next plan. When are you doing the next one, Dan?
I think me and Manny are on Monday night, but we might be doing an audio one, so I don't know if it'll be live. But I'll have to have a chat with you about it, Ferg. But hopefully Monday night. So,
well, I'll tell you what. I'll tell you what, people. The people who've watched this, if you want to see Manny and Pottsy do it on listen on audio afterwards, or if you want to see it live, put in the comments below which you prefer, and then we'll take it from there. And let's have a vote on it, eh?
Okay, we'll do that. Sounds good to me.
Take it easy. Have a good
Cheers,
evening.
Ferg. See ya.
Up the arse.